Attorney General Abbott, you say you want the #1 education system in the country. How much additional money per student, if any, would your plan require, and where would that money come from?
Brian, the amount additional per student varies from program to program. For example, in my pre-K4 program that I want to elevate to be the premier high-quality pre-K program in America, I want to add $1,500 more per student. Second is I do want to invest in teachers. I want to ensure that teachers both have the resources, the training, and the salaries to ensure we have the best top quality teachers in America.
Mr. Abbott, you are talking out of both sides of your mouth. On the one hand, you are fighting to keep our students in overcrowded classrooms, teachers laid off across the state, and school closings in place. And yet you say you want to make Texas #1 in education. You cannot accomplish that goal without making the appropriate investments. And when you talk about local control, what you really mean is exactly what's been happening today. Pushing those costs down to the local level, increasing property taxes for families across this state, and unfortunately keeping their children in a situation where they're not getting the education that they deserve. Your pre-K plan will pick and choose which children get quality pre-K and which do not, and it does not offer full-day pre-K.
So my plan that I've rolled out creates the best classroom environment for students in the United States of America from pre-K all the way through graduation.
So you believe that we can create the #1 education system in the nation by spending below the national average per pupil?
A whole bunch of conservative states rejected Obamacare, but several of them came up with plans to use those federal dollars to create their own flexible systems to cover the uninsured. Right now, Texas is turning its back on $100 billion in federal money. If elected governor, would you be willing to negotiate with the federal government on a plan that lowers premiums as well as reduces the local tax burdens? Or would you, like Governor Perry, refuse to talk to Washington and make a deal?
Well, Grummer, what I think is the best strategy for the state of Texas would be for the state of Texas to be able to get a block grant where we would have that level of flexibility so we could address the unique health care challenges that the people of the state of Texas face.
I hate to cut you off, but
That's
some
all right.
conservatives, even in the legislature, say block grants aren't a practical solution.
Block grants have been used effectively. What I don't want to do is to bankrupt Texas by imposing on Texas the overwhelming Obamacare disaster.
You know, this is an issue about doing the right thing for the people of this state. I have to laugh when I hear Mr. Abbott talk about bankrupting Texas. Right now, Texans are writing hard-earned tax dollars to the IRS, $100 billion of which will never come back to work for us in our state unless we bring it back. As governor, I will bring it back.
Let me tell you the facts. The facts are that Texas, by not participating in Obamacare, California is not going to get one single penny more. Another fact is if Texas does participate in Obamacare, it will cost the taxpayers of Texas more than $10 billion during the first 10 years of implementation. But even worse is that if Texas participates, we are making a deal with a federal government that is $18 trillion in debt. That is a bargain I'm not willing to make as governor.
Senator Davis, you're chuckling and shaking your
head.
Well,
what Mr. Abbott's saying is just absolutely not true. Our tax dollars will go to supplement health care in California and New York if we do not bring them back here. Our check that we write to the IRS will not get any smaller. And in fact, the checks that we write for our property taxes will grow. There's a reason that Republican and Democratic county judges around this state have come together and unified around the idea of bringing that tax money back to work for us, because they know that their hospital districts will have to increase taxes in order to take care of that unfunded care. Studies show that our investment to bring those dollars down will yield a net tremendous positive benefit for this state, including the job creation that will come from it.
In the past year, Texas home insurance companies have imposed some very big rate increases, as much as 30% by one company, while still collecting fairly sizable profits. We have a system in this state, as you know, that allows companies to increase their insurance rates before they're actually reviewed. Do you think rates in this state are too high for homeowners? And if so, what changes would you make?
There's probably not a homeowner at home who doesn't think that the rates are too high. And Shelley, I do think that we need to find ways to reduce homeowner insurance rates. It seems like they're going through the roof, no pun intended, but the reality is we have to have a marketplace that will attract the insurance companies here to provide that homeowner insurance. And so,
do you think rates are adequate? Are they right where they need to be, or?
I mean, candidly, I haven't looked at the math of it. I think it's called actuarial information.
The rates are ridiculously high. Homeowners are being gouged in our state, and they're being gouged in our state because we have an insurance commissioner who is failing to do her job and responsibly review these rate increases and decline them. As a state senator, I have argued that we should have prior approval of rate increases in our state before they are allowed, and one of the first things I will do as governor is replace the insurance commissioner and put someone there who has as her #1 responsibility the hardworking people of this state. I don't cotton to people who sell out our hardworking Texans for the interests of big insurance companies. Mr. Abbott, on the other hand, has taken enormous contributions from them and most recently advocated a settlement on behalf of Farmers Insurance that the judge accused him of laying down to the insurance company and refused to accept the settlement because he was selling out the claimants in our state.
If a 10-year-old girl asked you whether her two dads should be allowed to get married, what would you tell her?
I favor marriage equality, and I want to make sure that people who love each other, who are willing to be in a committed relationship with each other, and who desire to marry in our state have the opportunity to do so. This is a constitutional provision in our law right now, but it's been challenged. It's been challenged by Mr. Abbott. And we await the court's decision on whether this actually is in keeping with the U.S. constitutional and the Equal Protection Clause of that Constitution. If this is not remedied in the courts, as governor, I will be happy and will welcome a bill that would allow us to put once again before the voters of this state a decision on whether to repeal what is currently our constitutional ban against marriage equality in this state.
John, I want you to know that there are good and decent people on both sides of this issue. I believe in traditional marriage. That's what 75% of Texans agreed with less than a decade ago when they passed a constitutional amendment in the state of Texas saying that marriage in Texas is a union between one man and one woman. Now, for me personally, this is more than a constitutional amendment. I've been married to my wife Cecilia for more than 33 years now.
Is that what you would tell to the 10-year-old?
That's what I just told John.
Attorney General Abbott, you have said that abortion is only acceptable to save a woman's life. You have also indicated that you oppose abortion even in cases of rape and incest. Please speak directly to every woman in Texas who has been a victim of rape or incest and explain your position.
It's incredibly important whenever we talk to a woman who's a victim of rape or incest that we start with the compassion and support they deserve. That's what I have done as Attorney General by providing a record amount of financial support to victims and victims organizations supporting women who've been victims of rape and incest. That's what I've done as Attorney General by arresting more sexual predators than all attorneys general in the history of the state of Texas. But you bring up the issue, and listen, you know that I'm pro-life and I'm Catholic, and I want to promote a culture of life that supports both the health and safety of both the mother and child, both before and after birth.
I have always believed, Brian, that it is for a woman, and a woman guided by her faith and her family and her doctor, to make these very difficult decisions for themselves. I do not believe that the government should intrude in that most personal and private of decision makings. Greg Abbott, on the other hand, believes that it is his right to intrude, even when a woman has been the brutal victim of a brutal rape, or has been the victim of incest. This should come as no surprise to us, given that Mr. Abbott's attitudes toward women have revealed themselves in other ways. He pays women in his office less than he pays male assistant attorney generals. He campaigned with a known sexual predator who has bragged about having sex with underage girls.